Welcome to this BTX Today Deep Dive. We're focusing today on Brownsville's capital improvement plan. We know you, the community, want to understand what's being planned for our city and why it really matters for you. So think of this deep dive as your shortcut. We're aiming for a brief, to-the-point overview of the key parts. We've pulled together info from city documents, news reports, trying to synthesize it all. And just a quick note before we start, this deep dive is powered by artificial intelligence. We always strive for accuracy, but, well, AI can sometimes make mistakes. So please keep that in mind as you listen. Okay, so today we'll touch on what this capital improvement plan actually is, why it's so crucial for Brownsville specifically. We'll also look at how these plans generally work based on common practices, what benefits they're supposed to bring, the kind of time frame we're talking about for improvements, and maybe most importantly, the underlying needs that are really driving all these plans. All right, let's jump right in. First question. What exactly is a capital improvement plan?
Okay, so basically, you can think of it as Brownsville's multi-year investment strategy. It's a roadmap. It's focused on the big stuff, the public facilities and infrastructure that, keep the city running. These plans typically look ahead, say, 5 to 10 years, and they can include all sorts of projects, roads, bridges, definitely water and sewer systems, parks, public buildings, things like that. The main goal, really, is to make sure Brownsville's infrastructure can handle the community's needs, both current needs and future ones.
That paints a clear picture, a long-term roadmap for big projects. So why is having this plan, this CIP, so important for Brownsville right now?
Well, a good CIP is vital. It lets Brownsville tackle its immediate infrastructure needs in a planned, coordinated way. But maybe even more critical, it helps the city anticipate future growth, future advancements. So we're not just, reacting to problems. It's also, I think, a very tangible way for local government to show the community, here's how we're planning, here's how promises become reality.
Yeah.
Public trust is always a factor. Sometimes levels are low generally. And a well-run, clearly communicated CIP, that can really build confidence through action you can actually see.
Right, seeing is believing sometimes.
Exactly. But on the flip side, if it's poorly executed or maybe just not communicated well, that can unfortunately erode trust and, frankly, hinder progress.
Absolutely. It's about follow-through and transparency. So this is where it gets interesting, maybe the nitty-gritty. How does Brownsville actually do this? How does the CIP get developed and put into action? What's that process look like?
It's definitely a multi-step process. It really should start with community involvement. That means actively engaging residents. Things like public meetings, surveys, workshops, trying to understand their needs, their priorities. And Brownsville actually uses something called a community voice campaign for this. It runs annually, like November to March. They make an effort to reach out, including in low to moderate income areas, and offer Spanish translation, which is important.
So starting with the people. Okay.
Yeah. Then there's interdepartmental coordination, making sure all the city departments involved, public works, parks and rec, planning, finance, you name it, are talking to each other, ensuring plans align, resources are considered across the board.
Makes sense. Avoid working in silos.
Right. And political leadership buy-in is absolutely crucial. The city commission needs to be kept informed, involved. Ultimately, they're the ones who approve the plan and, importantly, approve the funding for it.
Okay. Approval from the top. What's next?
Then comes the technical side, a thorough needs assessment, basically looking hard at the condition of existing infrastructure and forecasting future needs. That involves looking at population growth projections, economic trends, all that data. After assessing needs, you move to project prioritization. This is key. You can't do everything at once, right? So potential projects get ranked. They usually use criteria like health and safety impact, preserving existing assets, community benefit, economic development potential, and of course, critically, what funding sources are actually available. Brownsville CIP certainly considers these kinds of things.
So it's a balancing act. Safety, community needs, economic impact, and the budget reality.
Precisely, which leads directly to funding identification, figuring out how to pay for it all. It's usually a mix: local taxes, maybe state or federal grants, and sometimes those capital recovery fees. Brownsville has explored and adopted those for roadways, for instance, charging new developments to help cover infrastructure costs they generate.
Okay, finding the money. And once it's rolling?
Transparency and accountability. That needs to run through the whole process, regularly updating the community on how projects are progressing through public reports, meetings, maybe even online dashboards these days, keeping people in the loop.
It sounds like a really comprehensive process, touching a lot of different bases. So assuming Brownsville navigates all that successfully, what are the payoffs? What benefits can the community realistically expect?
Well, if it's done well, the benefits should be Pretty significant and noticeable. First off, just an improved quality of life. Better public infrastructure means better services. Think roads, parks, community facilities, that old Highway 77 reconstruction project they started. New lanes, sidewalks, better drainage, that's a perfect example. Tangible improvement.
Right, things that make daily life better.
Exactly. Also, strategic investment through the CIP can encourage urban growth. It can help revitalize certain areas, make them more attractive for private sector investment, and it supports fiscal health for the city. Careful planning for big expenses, securing resources without just racking up excessive debt.
So responsible financial management, too.
Yes, and definitely economic development. Good infrastructure is fundamental for supporting local businesses and attracting new jobs, new opportunities. The city manager actually highlighted this connection, especially with, the growth spurred by things like SpaceX and the LNG projects. Infrastructure needs to keep pace.
That makes sense. You need the foundation.
You do. And finally, those road improvements we mentioned, they directly contribute to enhanced safety and connectivity, making it safer and easier for everyone, drivers, cyclists, pedestrians, to get around Brownsville.
Those are all definitely desirable outcomes. What about the timing? You mentioned CIPs look ahead 5–10 years, but what about the projects themselves? What kind of timeframes are we seeing?
All right, the overall plan is multi-year, typically that 5–10 year window, but the specific timeline for each individual project within Brownsville's CIP, that will vary quite a bit. It depends on the scope, the complexity. For example, the city manager mentioned allocating $110 million for capital projects just in 2025. That includes like $28.3 million for various road improvements, and that $13 million old Highway 77 project, that actually kicked off in January 2025. So things are actively happening now under the current plan.
So it's an ongoing process with projects starting and finishing within that larger plan framework.
Exactly. And things like the Roadway Capital Recovery Fee Plan that specifically looks at improvements and expansions over a period up to 10 years. So yeah, it's a mix. Some things happen relatively quickly. Others are longer-term investments, all guided by the CIP.
Okay, that clarifies the timeline aspect. So let's wrap this up by circling back to the why. Why is it so fundamentally needed for a city like Brownsville to go through all this effort for a capital improvement plan?
Well, it really boils down to the reality of being a growing city. Brownsville has constant ongoing needs. Needs for maintaining the infrastructure we already have, upgrading parts that are aging or outdated, and expanding systems to support the current population and, crucially, prepare for future growth. The CIP is the tool that ensures these needs are addressed in a planned, prioritized way, rather than, just reacting to emergencies or tackling things piecemeal, which is often way less efficient and can be more expensive in the long run.
So it's about being proactive instead of reactive.
That's a great way to put it. And you look at the growth. Brownsville has been seeing reports mention increased employment, rising wages, higher sales tax revenues. That kind of positive momentum absolutely necessitates proactive planning and investment in infrastructure. You have to support that growth, sustain it. Without a solid CIP, the city risks, falling behind, struggling to deliver essential services and support the kind of development that benefits you, the community.
Right, so this BTX Today Deep Dive aimed to give you a focused look at Brownsville's capital improvement plan. We've touched on what it is, why it's so vital for our city's health, the general process behind it, the benefits we hope to see, the ongoing timelines, and the basic needs driving it all for you. Now, for more specifics, really detailed info, we definitely encourage you to check out the official City of Brownsville documents and try to stay informed about public meetings related to the CIP. Remember what we said about community involvement. Your voice is a key part of this.
Absolutely. Citizen participation really does matter in shaping these plans.
Understanding this plan helps you, the community, see the bigger picture of how Brownsville is planning for its future and how these investments aim to shape our city for years to come. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We really hope it's provided some valuable insight for you. Now, thinking ahead, what aspects of Brownsville's growth, its infrastructure, or maybe its future plans are you most interested in exploring with us next time?